I think the Skins Workshop too is really going to be life-changing for some of the participants.
The telling of these stories is as important, or as important as the stories itself. So each storyteller who actually tells a story actually takes part of that tradition and takes some ownership within that story.
This video game is going to benefit our community and our culture because it's going to get actual characters of Native people in video games.
Historically, we've been the object of other people's gaze. And so people have written about us, they've painted us, they've photographed us, other people have filmed us, and at the end of the day, it becomes their story about us and not our story. What we want to help support is a new generation of native video game makers, because video games are becoming as important as any of those other mass media.
We thought video games were very exciting, and especially exciting to youth. What we were thinking from the beginning was that this could be a really interesting way for elders to engage with youth, or vice versa, for youth to draw upon the knowledge of their elders, but still be able to work in a medium that seems both familiar and exciting to them.
I'm going to start with the first piece here, which is the Faith Keeper. Faith Keeper is the person who holds all of our ceremonies, all of our traditional knowledge. And we have people who have been trained since they were little children to be that role within our society. There's so many stories and so many things to do within the culture. And before it gets lost and before we lose the stories, it's timely that it gets done now.
This is how I think of this whole project Skins, which is translating the oral tradition into virtual reality. Richard Van Camp, he's a wonderful example of a person who's taking stories, remembering stories and retransmitting them, telling them from his own perspective, and also adopting other medias to tell them in.
Storytelling is very central to Aboriginal cultures. The histories that we have are oral based. It's important for continuity. So as a way of making a connection between who we are now, who we were 100 years ago, or 500 years ago, or 1,000 years ago. And that's critical for helping sort of keep a sense of identity alive and coherent. Skins 2.0 was the Skins Summer Institute that we conducted in July of 2011. All the participants for the Skin Summer Institute came from Kahnawake. Very different personality types, very different age ranges. They were getting to know each other, they were getting to know us.
Then we started with the storytelling process. The participants came in, they were asked to each bring in a story to share.
When we started the class, one of our first assignments was to gather stories.
All the people led by the old sachem came out of the council house and gathered around Scunny-Wundy.
My daughter chose a story about a young maiden going down the water.
After some distance from her village, she ceased paddling, closed her eyes, and began singing.
Another student, Lance, did a story on a community and what they do in the community and how they help each other with elders and the youngsters.
A long time ago, there were 3 sisters who lived together in a field. These sisters were quite different from one another.
It wasn't just sort of telling those stories, but it was sort of having the storytellers say, you know, why they're a storyteller, why they think the stories are important in the community, why they think it's important for the stories to continue.
We told the stories and discussed which one would make a great game, or which ones would make a game. Should we put them together? How would they make a game? How do we pull it apart? How is it transmediated into a video game?
In your story, I thought there was lots of rich ways for it to become a game and still tell the story. Okay, so imagine like kayaking, you know, and then the eyes closing and then the water going faster. Well, what could we replace the eye? I mean, how could we show that, or can we replace it with something else? And then or could it be something that you have to do in order to go faster?
There could be rocks and logs, and then you have
Totally.
to direct it between the stuff to get to where you have to go. And if you mess up, your kayak turns upside down, you got to start all over.
We just talked about it, like what would we want in the video game, and how we would want our players to feel and stuff.
That was a great story. I could see where, again,
the visuals in there and that hunter-warrior person. By us giving them some examples to look at, they were able to pull out this really great story about Scunny as a little mischievous boy, and at the same time still reflecting of the culture and how they chose the dynamics of what's going to happen within the game itself.
We picked that story and we started the process of creating the paper prototype right away.
The paper prototype is like you make your map out of like paper and stuff.
It was really nice watching them play the paper prototype because they would get all excited and like, okay, here I'm coming, boom, 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 you know, and all this kind of game interaction with just paper and little clay models that they had.
The game begins in a community village with the longhouse, and Scunny Wendy is a young boy about the age of 15.
Who is known in the community as a braggart and very boastful and a little bit ego-driven.
And so they decide to call him to task.
The elder says to Scunny Wendy,
Guess what, Scunny Wendy? The council have come together and we have great news for you. And Scunny Wendy's like, what? And he's like, we've decided to have you fight the stone giant. Me?
Go take the canoe and then go down the river and try to dodge rocks and stones and all this.
He's really having trouble navigating, and he sees this great big whirlpool and he starts getting caught up in that current.
He gets out of the canoe and walks down the cliffs. And when he gets down to the bottom of the cliffs,
And he sees the stone giant on the other side of the river and he says, my name is Scunny Wendy and I'm here to stop you. You're starving our people because you're chasing away all those fish.
here's the stone giant saying, I will get him.
The giant's coming up in his ear. Where's Scunny Wendy? The giant says, I'm coming and get you.
Scunny Wendy knows that the giant spit is magic.
Scunny Wendy decides to run all the way around and dip his hatchet into the magic spit.
Now he has a magical, invincible hatchet, and basically he starts attacking the giant from afar.
Then the stone giant says, that's it, I retreat, I give up. You're a great warrior and I shall not bother your people no more. And that's where the story ends.
Next thing that we did were workshops on how to do everything that you need to be able to do for a game.
Go into the computer room, and then they would teach us how to use Blender, Unity.
I think Blender was the part that I learned more about. I learned how to model correctly.
I liked Unity. I liked the maps. It was like magic. It's like, wow, mountains! Wow, trees, sun, sky.
Some of them given by the sort of the mentors or other experts in the field that we had found, and bulk of them given by the research assistants.
So these are Concordia University students, mainly students from my program, Computation Arts, but also some students from art history, from design, and a couple other places around the university. They helped us design the curriculum. They taught modules, 3D modeling, animation, programming, audio, image processing. They were, very key to the success of the workshop, in that they really are the ones who kind of made things go.
Buju, Sego, Benesidijnikas, Mangandodam, Nishnabe, Laksul Donje. And what I'm saying is, my name is Thunderbird. I'm from the Wolf Clan. I'm a Anishinaabe from Laksul First Nations. I take digital images, and then from there, you can port out those images into a million different ways. For you guys as game designers, you can take those photos and turn them into games, 3D environments.
From the beginning of the Skins project, we knew that we wanted to develop this idea of having mentors. So these were people in our imagining who have some kind of teachable skill.
Also, we wanted them to be Aboriginal, to be a person who was successful in their chosen profession. I think we found a few great mentors.
If anybody's familiar with our creation story, it takes place in the sky world, the first part of it. What's the material culture of the sky world? We figured it would probably mirror Iroquoian culture somehow, and so we just took a lot of the same material culture we have traditionally in Haudenosaunee society.
After the paper prototype was made and everyone knew what their role was, they went into the lab and they just worked on the game.
The thing I'm doing right now, the level design, is the first step for the whole thing.
Do we want the giant just to stay over at that one place on that shore and I'll come get you, or him still crossing back and forth?
Original seconds for the giant to turn around, and that's the time where you're trying to throw your hatchet at him.
It takes a community to make a video game, because it seems like that, and it really is like that. It takes a lot of different elements to come together.
Throughout the whole workshop, there were the industry guests coming in. They were almost timeouts from the work that we were doing.
Today we're going to talk about game development process, how we make a game, because we all like games, but one thing is to play them, the other thing is to make them. And I personally think to make games is even more fun than actually play games.
By bringing in industry people, sort of giving a face and a name to both the companies, but also to the positions, right? So it's like, oh, that's what a producer is, right? Oh, okay, that's what a concept artist is. That's what a programmer is.
So I'm a game designer at UB. I'm on a AAA project, so what it means is it's mostly a big game that will have about maybe 300 people on the project.
They're like from Ubisoft. I worked on this game, that game. I'm like, wow. And I was like, I still want this person's autograph, but I'm like, no, that sounds too geeky.
Being native in a video game, it doesn't really matter. Because I got a shaved head, people think I'm Mexican. Seriously. But when I say I'm Indian, they go, what kind of Indian? India? I go, no, I'm Indian. So, what kind of Indian? You're on my land type Indian. They start laughing.
For the participants, I think they've gained really valuable friendships and long-term friendships that are going to be based on trying to promote culture and to promote game development.
We've been translating the stories, the native traditional stories, into a video game in order to intrigue the youngsters to remember the stories. And it keeps the story alive. And if interaction will do that, then that's the avenue we need to take, because I think it's beneficial to the elders because they have a role in our society of telling the story. And I think it's the children that are coming up, they're the next generation.
Our community needs to know that our young people learn different today. Our young people do things differently with the digital age. We are in the digital age, and we need to create our own things.
If we fulfill the goals that we set out for us, which if that primary goal of empowering young people, it is to make sure that Aboriginal people are present in this new medium where that so many people are looking at, more than movies now. I want to make sure that we're there and that we have represented ourselves.
The more opportunities we make for ourselves as a people to tell our stories and to represent ourselves, the more powerful we'll be as a people.